Morning.
Good morning. Afternoon.
Afternoon, right. How are you?
Good. Hi.
Okay, good afternoon. We're going to conduct the press conference in English. If there is any requirement for translation, please raise your hand. Otherwise, we'll try and get through in English where we can. And we'll start with the moves.
Okay. Big game tomorrow. Got to perform like you did in Amsterdam. If you win, though, 1 foot in the next round.
I wouldn't like to say that until that foot is officially in the next round. And I felt at the start of this group it would be tight because I think there's a belief that probably the teams could take points of each other. It's proved pretty bit correct. But we've had 2 good results, so another good one would be great for us, of course, with 2 games left. But we must understand that even though we're at home now, the quality of Ajax and the danger of them is as much, certainly the same, if not more, than the game that we played away, because they're such a good technical team.
The team keep exceeding the targets that we've set them, not that you've set them, we've set them. To get to the knockout stage of the Champions League would be something special, especially after losing the opening home game.
Yeah, I mean, particularly, as you say, after losing the opening game, which was disappointing, obviously, but we've shown a great reaction from that. It's something that I have to accept is expected of Chelsea to go through, and that's not disrespecting any other teams, because I said already how hard the group is, but ourselves, our expectations, and I think that might be somewhat of why we had the reaction after Valencia. We wanted to prove, we wanted to go to Lille and Ajax and get results, we did. But the only answer for me is that we have to have exactly the same attitude, preparation and input as we put into those last 2 performances, because at this level, if you don't, you're not going to get the results. So it's very much a case of not getting away from ourselves in this group and getting the wins to hopefully get us through.
And finally, if VAR used tomorrow night, the referee will go and look at the monitor, which you'll be very happy about.
Yeah, it's incredible, isn't it? To actually use it when it's there to be used would be a great thing. We're in a difficult place, we know that. And it happened with us with a penalty at Valencia, against Valencia, where we got referee went and looked and double checked. I think that's what it's there for. It worked well at that point. We'll see.
Okay, Dutch in the middle.
Yeah, Dutch television, how are you?
Hi.
What about 2 weeks ago? How do you look back on that game? I mean, it was quite, the level was quite even. And what do you expect now tomorrow?
Well, I would expect something similar, because I think the game was pretty true. It was a very good Ajax team who had a great record going into that game, won all their games. I understood that going into it, and the players understood that, and we knew we had to be at our top level to get the result. I think we were. I also think we can improve, but in the game itself, we did so many of the things that we needed to do to stop Ajax being so good on the ball, which they are, to stop them playing through the lines, which they can. And we gave them some problems ourselves. So I thought it was a fantastic game to be involved in, to look back on. And we will have to perform at our highest level, because I expect more of that from them tomorrow.
So it can be decided by details tomorrow?
Yeah, for sure. I think, in my experience of Champions League, more than any other competition in world football, details can make the difference, because of the levels, because of the need for absolute concentration throughout the game. A small, tiny detail can definitely affect a game when it's this close.
John Southall.
N'Golo Kante, can we expect him back tomorrow?
He's in the squad, so he's fit. In terms of, it looks nicely like the injuries and the few niggles that we're getting have cleared up, and we've been able to get some work into him. It's always a little bit stop-start before that, so he's in the squad and available.
And Antonio Rudiger, is he seeing a specialist? Is that right?
Today. Yeah, so no news. Yeah.
Carrie.
Looking back at that match, and someone that we're going to hear from very shortly, Mason Mount, probably was knowing you would give him a chance, but for him to start in every Premier League match, a player that of course went out and played in the Netherlands to progress his career, how proud are you of him, and how far can he develop his career?
I'm really proud of him. Obviously, his loan spell in Holland, and then his loan spell with me in the Championship, I saw firsthand the quality and also his character. Maybe he's exceeded my expectations this season, because I wanted him here for sure. I thought he'd get minutes and he'd be good for us. I didn't realise to quite what level he would settle and produce as he's produced. So that's all a great story. And then the next story is his. It's up to him. So I believe in him. He has to keep working to improve all the time. He's shown, particularly in the game against Ajax, where the 3 midfielders I thought were outstanding because of the work rate they had to put into the game to stop Ajax having control of it. and he did it. So you think of Mason as an attacking midfield player. He's shown you now that he's got both sides, and he hopefully will get even better.
Right, Matteo said that you've given him more freedom this season. I wanted to sort of talk about him and his partnership with Jorginho that's developing, and you've also got this very tight unit in midfield now. Where does Kante fit in with the sort of form of the other midfielders?
Well, in terms of the freedom, I think it's call it freedom. It's just how I want us to play, how we as staff work with the midfield. So there's an element of, at times, and particularly in some games, we've had to break teams down this season, and we need to be able to move. We can't be too rigid in our position, too predictable. So I think that the freedom to interchange, when I'm fortunate enough to have players, and the 3 players who played at Watford, for instance, I just mentioned Mason's defensive qualities, they all can do all roles as such. So I'm very happy with them to be quite fluent in how they play. And I also want them to be positive in their play and play forward passes when they're on, go by people if that's one of your attributes, as Matteo has, to travel with the ball at pace. So that's been, mainly their work, because they're the ones out there doing it, and I just try and push that along and help on that front. And in terms of N'Golo, of course, he's huge for us. He's one of the best midfield players in the world, has been for a few seasons. So I won't complain about the nice problem that I have with him fit. I want competition. We're playing every 3 or 4 days in a minute, so I'm going to need all of them, and in different positions as well.
Matt?
Frank, CAS have set the date for the appeal here to transfer ban. How interested will you be in the results of that?
Well, very interested, of course, because it relates, but I've got no comment as such now, because I actually don't know enough detail. It is a legal matter, and I don't know enough of the legals to even delve, but of course I'm interested, because it's going to obviously affect potentially what we can do in January or not. But it is a little bit down my list, to be fair, because the matter in hand is Ajax tomorrow, and the matter in hand then will be Crystal Palace and etc. So I'm not going too far ahead. It will happen, we'll see, and at that point we will see how it affects us.
What is it a compliment though to what you and your players are doing, that quite a lot of Chelsea fans are reacting to it by saying we don't want the banner returned?
You want a good run, don't we? It's like, you never know. I mean, I get that. That's a nice feeling, and of course some players have come in and shown with their opportunities they've been given that they can do roles and play well, because we are getting results at the moment. So I think as Chelsea we will always look to improve in windows if we can, if we're allowed to, and if the players we might look at are better or we feel are adding to the squad. But at the minute I'm very happy with what I got, so that's I suppose why hopefully fans are as well.
Okay, Carve and then Liam.
Frank, there's been so much controversy again about VAR this weekend in the Premier League. It seems to be working better in the Champions League than in the Premier League. Why do you think that is?
I don't have the answer to that. I think the use of the screen on the side of the pitch can be a help, because we've seen this weekend in the Premier League decisions that, well, firstly they've taken a long time to get to, which seems to bring in the fact that there's an element of doubt. So for the clarity of the referee on pitch, who has to see things live and make quick decisions, I think the idea that he can go and look again has to be a good one. I get there are some arguments around that in terms of fans' reaction and pressure on referees, but if it was, as the reading was in the beginning, that it's going to be used, I can't remember the exact word in there, sparingly I think was the word, and it hasn't been used sparingly, it's been used not at all. So I do think probably that's one thing that we could look at in terms of the Champions League. I don't know the difference, I haven't studied it closely enough. It just feels at the minute in the Premier League obviously there are things that aren't right with it. I think that's pretty much a universally agreed at this point, and I don't think it's for the want of trying or anyone having the wrong aims. We all want a better game and better decisions and the right decision, but at the minute we're not quite getting that.
Okay, we're going to do 2 more, and then we've got to finish. Liam and then Andy, last one.
Frank, Jorginho and Kovacic have both had a big impact on Chelsea's recent run. In terms of the way you want this team to play, how important is it to have midfielders that you can trust to get the ball in bad areas and make good decisions?
Yeah, I think it's hugely important in how I and we as staff want the team to play. You've seen that we're trying to be fluid in our movement of the ball, and of course that really does mean moving it through central areas a lot, and you need to be able to receive balls in tight areas. It's a huge attribute of those two that you mentioned, but I think it's also attributes of a lot of our players in midfield areas or wherever. You should be wanting to accept the ball and comfortable to at this level of football, because the game against Ajax, the first game, the pace and speed of the game, if you're not ready to accept it, then it will find you out very quickly. So yeah, it's a huge bit. We train on that sort of stuff. The players are talented on that sort of stuff. We can always improve and get better because I think the best teams do it even better than the rest. So that's kind of what we're working towards, I suppose.
Okay, last question, Andy.
Frank, as it stands, would you get rid of VAR and go back to how it was, or would you keep it?
It's such an Andy question. I would work with it at the moment and see how we can improve. And I think it needs to be a really open conversation. Referees, managers, fans, whatever. I know there are so many different opinions. It's not easy. I think the clinical decisions are an improvement. I know Firmino was probably one that was very, very borderline at the weekend, which people could disagree with. But I think the clinical nature of offside and goal line technology obviously is, I think, positive. It's the subjective in between ones that we really need to, I think, decide where we're coming from with this idea of clear and obvious. Because at the weekend there was a lot of not clear and obvious, and some are overturned, some are not, whatever. And that's not ideal. And I felt very sorry for Son yesterday because of the nature of the injury and his reaction, and the fact that he took a red card when looking back at the tackle, it was no way did his force of his tackle affect the injury. That's something that is horrendous and happens occasionally. So I felt it was obviously for Gomez as well, but sorry for him in the moment.
It just
Quickly, Andy.
I think you struck a chord with a lot of people when on Saturday you were saying that it's undermining referees in a way that people are supposed to help with the kind of how long it took to decide your penalty, how long it all went on, and the grey areas and that sort of stuff. It doesn't seem to be helping referees in those situations.
I think so, and I think that's the worst of both worlds. For Anthony on the pitch on Saturday with our game, I feel he made absolutely the right decision. There wasn't enough there for it to be a penalty, and then it gets overturned by VAR, so the right decision becomes made into a wrong decision, and I think that's happened too much at the minute. And the one thing I'll give the referees, it is new, and we are still relying on humans, so we must go with them a little bit. I'm very happy to work with them and give my opinion, albeit when you're heated after Watford game and we nearly drew the game, you feel more about it. I still feel that way to a degree, but we must work for improvement because we all want better.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Cheers.
See you tomorrow.
Cheers, mate. Good to see you. Thank you.
And you.
I want to ask if that's a compliment. That'd be